Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. And on this edition, we're going to be talking about former New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton and what is the likeliness of him possibly coaching the black and gold in 2023. Now, I know some of you were probably tuning into this show, probably wondering to yourself, well, TJ, why are we talking about Sean Payton possibly coaching the New Orleans Saints in 2023? Especially since the last show you did a couple shows back, you were talking about Sean Payton and the unlikeliness of Sean Payton coaching the Saints in 2023. Well, this entire story came from long stay journalist of the New Orleans Saints covering the team and also a part of NOLA.com, Mr. Jeff Duncan. Jeff Duncan posted on Twitter in regards to head coach Sean Payton, and he says, people close to Sean Payton thinks he's going to coach in 2023. I asked one of them to rank where he most likely a coach. He listed the New Orleans Saints as number one. Jeff Duncan, if Sean Payton is going to coach somewhere in 2022, it needs to be the Saints. And of course, there's a link for his article, and I encourage everybody to go and check it out and see what Jeff Duncan has to say. But that's what this entire conversation is about. You know, Jeff Duncan's comments and talking to people. And, you know, Jeff Duncan has been around New Orleans Saints for a long time. You know, some people are not fans of Jeff Duncan. Some people feel like, he kind of like one of them Saints do boys. I don't know. I only met Jeff Duncan once. I interviewed him for the State of the Saints podcast. Seems like a nice guy to me. Seems like he's informative. And, he said, I never had an issue with Jeff Duncan. But apparently he talked to some people close to Sean Payton. And I don't know who these people are. I mean, that could be anybody. Anybody that stood next to Sean Payton or probably was his golf caddy at one time or another. We don't know who he actually talked to. But Sean Payton coaching in 2023, the New Orleans Saints, honestly, based on what we've seen this season from from the New Orleans Saints, Sean Payton would be like a godsend at this particular point. Now, we know how bad this team has been. They're 4-9 as of right now. They had a bye week, and I still feel like they lost. The morale from the Who Dat Nation is low. The team, it remains to be seen how they're going to respond against the Atlanta Falcons, knowing that more than likely they're not going to be playing in the playoffs. This is relatively early. Normally, we'll find out if the Saints not making the playoffs, probably the last game of the season. But, I mean, it's a formality at this point. Of course, they're not mathematically out of the equation because, of course, Tampa Bay lost today, and then you got Carolina kind of jockeying for position of the NFC South. But, man, I just look at this team, man, all hope is lost this season, and we need to be looking towards 2023. My honest opinion, I don't think that Sean Payton will be coaching the New Orleans Saints in 2023. I think there's a reason why Sean Payton left, and I think it had a lot to do with the thing that we have been dealing with throughout the entire season, and that is the New Orleans Saints don't have an answer at the quarterback position. You know, I'm not buying that whole thing about Sean Payton needing a mental health break. And quite frankly, I'm kind of disgusted at the whole particular situation because I feel like people use mental health as a scapegoat, and it's doing a disservice to those who really are dealing with mental health. And I'm pretty sure he probably is dealing with mental health. I understand that head coaching is a tough job, but I don't think it's to the extent that he was making it out to be. You think about guys like Bill Belichick, who won 6 Super Bowls in New England, and he has to answer the question, can he be successful without Tom Brady? I can only imagine him being stressful. I only can imagine a guy like Mike Tomlin, who franchise quarterback retired last year and still trying to figure it out with a young quarterback and a quarterback who just threw 3 interceptions today. I only can imagine what type of stress that can be. I only can imagine what type of stress a guy like John Harbaugh can be dealing with a quarterback situation where his quarterback is dealing with a contract negotiation and also dealing with a knee injury, and we don't know the severity of that. So all these different things that's going on as a coach, I mean, look, I can understand that, but you have to be real. I mean, Sean Payton took his ball and he went home. The first line of trouble I feel like he saw, he dipped out. And I think he dipped out mostly because of his reputation. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's the way I feel. I think that Sean Payton built up a reputation for being this offensive play calling, this offensive genius, this quarterback whisperer, this offensive innovator, and he didn't want to lose that. And he felt probably looking at this team last season, them going 9-8, and then also, the possibility of what's going to be this season of uncertainty. I just think that it was just grounds for him to try to move on to greener pastures. I also felt like if it was always about mental health, then why were you having back channel conversations with the Miami Dolphins and owner Stephen Ross, who is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, serving a suspension right now for tampering in a whole Brian Flores situation. So we all know that you were interested in a Miami job, bringing Tom Brady along, and y'all trying to take over the AFC East together. But I just think that when you think about situations like that, it's just hard for me to just sit up here and just take that he just stepped down because he was tired as an excuse. But we fast forward to next year. I still don't feel like he's going to be coaching New Orleans Saints. I think that he would like to go somewhere like the Los Angeles Chargers, who, as of right now, if you're listening to this live or watching this live, they're actually playing right now versus the Miami Dolphins, ironically. But I just think that he wants to go to a better situation. I don't think that he wants to come back to the New Orleans Saints. And, I just think that he wants to try to test the waters going somewhere else. I think he felt like he built a solid foundation. The New Orleans Saints gave them credibility, coached and won enough games for the Saints to be considered one of the teams that are one of the best in the NFC, and not only in the NFC, but in the league for the last decade and a half. But I still feel like, this team needs you right now. And, it'll be interesting to see what decision he's going to make, because this is something that I feared, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the season. I said we are okay with Sean Payton stepping down and doing television. But if Sean Payton comes back into the league and coaches another team when this team is at its lowest, the lowest it's been probably since the early 2000s, and you decided that you want to move on away from that, I just think that a lot of people are going to get upset at Sean Payton, because they're finally going to realize and have to come to the fact and come to grips that he just didn't want to be here. Because, I mean, this team is 4-9 right now. And the fact that, the next thing on your mind is not possibly coaching this team next year will tell you everything that you need to know, which I already know that he doesn't want to be here. But let me go ahead and read some of your comments. Thank y'all for being here. I'm gonna stroll up to the top just a little bit. We're gonna go to Texas Saints. Says, I wouldn't be surprised if he did come back. All I can say is anything is better. DA, we need some aggressive coaching, but I do believe it's time for a change. Well, Texas Saint, I just think that the fact that we were actually able to see this team outside of Sean Payton, we realized that it can be a very scary and confusing place. And I know that the Saints don't have a rich tradition of winning consistently like before Sean Payton. I mean, you had some good Mora years, of course, with good defenses, but wild card, bounce out, playoff, type stuff going on there. But I mean, the Saints don't have a rich tradition of winning, and Sean Payton represents that winning tradition. And of course, we all want him back, as far as his coaching, and like I said, what we've seen this season, we know how good he actually is, because we now see that he possibly made up for a lot of the inconsistencies and imperfections of this team. And him running this team almost like a borderline tyrant, and him being meticulous about the smallest things, such as what type of spikes you have in your cleats, and what type of stuff you want to wear during a cold weather game, and different scenarios like that. I mean, I think we all can have an appreciation for that as of right now, versus, giving up a 14, a 16-3 lead with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So, I think we all would like to have him back, but I just think that he left for a reason. I think he left for a reason, and I think he wants to go somewhere else. Michael says he mentally just fine. Up there skinning and grinning with Kyle Hurd and the rest of them. He's fine. Just wanted to get gone. It's all good, though. I mean, I mentioned that before. Like, I know people want to sit up here and try to make this excuse, but I don't believe it. I'm not buying it. And I ain't got a dog in the fight. Like, I don't have to sit up here and go along and get along with some nonsense. And I know that what's going on right in front of my face, I mean, it stinks. It stinks straight up. Don't tell me that you need a mental health break and you having back channel conversations with the Miami Dolphins. Like, it just don't make no sense. Like, so if everything would have went right, Brian Flores didn't blow the whistle, you would have been coaching the Miami Dolphins and not Mike McDaniel. So it's hard for me to just sit up here and just allow him to have that mental health excuse. And once again, if things don't pan out, in which they have not, and let's just say, for example, Mickey Loomis says this isn't working, and you call up Sean to say, Sean, I know you want to come back, we'd like to have you back. Or heck, what I'm saying, see what it takes in order to get him back. And if he still says no, then I think that tells you everything you need to know. I mean, first time it kind of just ran past you all of a sudden with the Miami situation, but if given an opportunity based on what you've seen this season, he comes and he go coaches somewhere else, and the Saints end up firing Dennis Allen, like, if that ain't the biggest pimp slap across the face I ever seen, like, you would have no choice but to accept that for those that are living in denial as if, Sean Payton just, mental health was just in shambles. Is this live? Did y'all see Tampa Bay getting beat down? Yeah, of course I seen it, Jules. I mean, I saw it. I mean, I think we pretty much already knew what was going to happen. The Saints just couldn't get the job done, and that's what makes it even more frustrating, because we all knew that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers weren't that good. We know that Tom Brady is basically running on fumes right now, and we know if the New Orleans Saints would have beat them, then who knows what would have happened? Would have made it interesting down the stretch, but of course, that's all wishful thinking right now, and it has a lot to do with what we're talking about right now, which is coaching. I doubt he comes back, but if he does, he'll get the best out of this roster. Yeah, and that's another thing too, that for those that talking about these the first round pick for Sean Payton and all that kind of stuff. I seen something very interesting on Twitter that talked about Sean Payton, and it talked about how we getting all excited about these draft picks, a possibility of draft picks. We watching Charger games and we praying for their demise. But somebody said, like, if the Saints didn't make a trade for Sean Payton, he decided to come back, would that be better than having a first round pick? And I have to say, it probably would be, because the thing about the first round pick, we don't know if this thing gonna pan out, right? You can talk about these first round picks. Oh, we got a first round pick. We'll be able to get this dude, that dude. But there are times where the Saints draft somebody and it just don't work out, right? But for Sean Payton to come back, that would be better than a first round pick, because we already know, number one, if Sean Payton come back, most likely he ain't drafting no quarterback. You know what I'm saying? He rather get somebody that's already in the league, that's established, and the game is slowed down for him. So we probably end up getting somebody like a Jimmy Garoppolo, or getting somebody that he's seen like a Mike White or something like that. If the Jets want to move on from that, like, he'll try to get somebody like that, right? So he ain't about to. He just don't like rookies. I heard him talking about Caleb Williams, but I believe that when I see that. It just seems like to me he likes those established quarterbacks, because maybe he feel like, once again, the game slows down for him, and he's able to let them see the field a little bit faster than a rookie. I mean, I honestly just don't know, but it is something to think about. Sean Payton, to me, would probably be able to navigate the Saints in 2023, even though they don't have a first round draft pick. He probably would be able to, like, steer them in the right direction, and help them, maybe even possibly make the playoffs. But so is it worth him losing a first round pick? I don't know. I think that if anybody's saying that, it's probably because they probably upset at the way that he left, probably feeling the same way that I do and what I just said about him leaving. So, but I think if you're not going to have a first round pick, it probably would be best for him to come back, because I think you'll have a better chance of being successful with him as a coach and not having a first round pick. He'll be back. They're going to offer him too much money. I mean, look, here's the reality though. Here's the good thing. Here's the good thing, man. Um, if Sean Payton was to come back to coach the New Orleans Saints, you probably have a strong chance not losing Dennis Allen as a defensive coordinator. He will probably go back to being the defensive coordinator. That's probably the best thing about this. Like, as much as we talk about Dennis Allen as a head coach, which is justifiably so, as a coordinator, he's freaking great, and he'll probably be more willing to go back to his original position with the Saints if Sean Payton was the head coach versus somebody else was to come in and replace him. Like, I don't see that happening. You will lose him. So that probably would be if you want to look at something that's more of a silver lining. I think that probably would be a good thing. Dennis Allen probably would be more willing to go back to his original position because it probably wouldn't look that bad. He's been with Sean Payton in the past. They know each other, and more than likely, if he did coach, you end up getting hired by somebody that's probably close to you or friends with you and stuff like that. How many times have we seen head coaches get fired from being head coaches, and then they go back to the guy who probably they was under his tree, or you go back to being a coordinator with them. So that might be a positive thing if you want to look at it that way. But if Sean Payton doesn't come back and the Saints fire him, then you're gonna have to find yourself looking for a new defensive coordinator. Paul Parker, I honestly think he just needed a break. Since the NFC South is not even trying, can we please eliminate NFC South this year? Yeah, I mean, look, it's pretty bad. It's pretty terrible stuff. Look, the NFC South is bad. To me, I think the Carolina Panthers gonna win the division. That's just me personally. They seem like they're the team that's kind of getting together. They playing together. They playing inspired. They got a really good defense, good young team. I can see them making the playoffs. I don't see Tampa making the playoffs. I just don't see them stringing off enough wins. I see Carolina going in the right direction on the uptick, and I see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers they'll probably be able to throw a football or two, keep the game interesting. They'll probably win. But I just think that if they're looking at Tom Brady like he once did, they just sadly mistaken. Like, Tom Brady can't lead you the way that he once did. You don't really have a running game. Your offensive line in shambles. Your defense is really good. But even with the secondary, man, I mean, they've had injuries. So maybe they'll be able to get some guys back. But I just think that when it comes to Carolina, I just think that it seemed like to me they playing more inspired than anybody. All right, so that's the way I feel about it. Zach Williams, this is the first round, might not be what we hyping it up to be in the long term. I mean, we can always say that. Me personally, I don't look. I just think like this. Okay, so if you're not getting a franchise quarterback in the first round, I mean, I'm not really that upset about no first round pick. Like, look, I think we just look at these first round picks and we look at these guys as individuals that just gonna change your life, change, your team's trajectory and all that kind of stuff there. But at this particular point, the only thing that can really change the Saints trajectory is a quarterback, a franchise quarterback, a guy that's going to lead this team to victory. Like, looking at, I mean, who else are you trying to get in the first round that you feel like going to change the fortunes of the Saints besides a quarterback? And honestly, the guy that a lot of us want them to have, they have a strong chance of getting him because he has torn his ACL in Hendon Hooker. So, I mean, if the Saints end up falling to the second round, it's going to be an early second round pick. Heck, the way they're going, it might be the 33rd pick, all we know. So who's to say that you can't get the franchise quarterback in the second round and Hendon Hooker? Or you're not able to get a franchise quarterback in the second round and somebody else that may have fell in the draft. So I wouldn't mind, I'm saying? I don't care about the first round draft pick. Like, if they was to trade in and get one that's in the top 10 where you can get a chance to maybe get one of these guys that's potential franchise quarterbacks, then fine. But if you get in the 16th, 17th pick, guess what, man? I mean, you basically just trying to find somebody, that can be able to be a productive player on your team, not a guy that's going to be a generational talent or a guy that's going to be a world changer. I'm just being honest. Like most of those guys, when teams are struggling, they looking for their guy in the top 5 pick, which if the Saints didn't give it up to Philly, they probably would have found that person that would have been changing their life. But in these late rounds, like the teens, like how effective is it going to be? You might be able to find somebody, but you got a better chance finding somebody like that in the top 5 or the top 10. If Sean does come back, we are arguably a playoff bound based on our division on paper. Plus, you get a chance to keep DA as DC. Yeah, I already. Yeah, that's why I was saying. Like, you have a better chance of keeping him. And then, I know Sean Payton. He probably won't admit this, but he probably feel like the biggest fool on the face of God's green earth this season. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I'm pretty sure there's been more times than not, that he probably looked and said, man, if I would have stayed coaching, I probably would have won this division by October. Seriously. Like, he probably was thinking to himself, or is thinking to himself, this might have been one of the easiest coaching jobs I've done to win the division this year. So I know, like, a part of him is probably thinking, like, hey, man, maybe I should have stepped down this year coming, you know what I'm saying, versus, the year before. Because, like I said, he probably would have been able to high step his way to the division based on how trash the division been. Even though the NFC South, is trash, it wasn't always trash back then. Like you had like some competition. I don't think that Sean Payton would have had an easier road than he would have had this year than winning the division. Seriously. But, it is what it is. TJ, is it possible that Sean saw what we were looking like and that gave him the itch to want to come back and right the ship, kind of like it's his baby that's been stained? Yeah, it could have, like, man, of course. It's like, your elementary school, like you go back past your elementary school and they're looking all dilapidated and messed up and all that, man. You like, God, dog, man. You know what I'm saying? I went to that school. You know what I'm saying? Like, shoot, I walked the halls of that school. My favorite teacher went, taught me at that school. It's kind of the same way. Like, you looking at something that means so much to you, like in shambles. And then on top of that, man, it's like, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. Sean Payton is a competitive guy. And we all know why Dennis Allen got this job. You know what I'm saying? It was on a recommendation of Sean Payton. So how good is your recommendation and your credibility as a coach? You know what I'm saying? Recommending guys to be, to be a head coach, and they're out here looking like straight up slaw. So I don't know, and then on top of that, like he built this thing, he built the credibility that the New Orleans Saints have around the league. There's no mistake about that. So yeah, it's probably something that's inside of him, but we'll see. TJ, my aunt is in a hospital with RSV. They have also discovered that she has COPD and her heart is only pumping at 26%. Prayers, please. Yeah, man, Josh, my prayers go out to your family, man. Your prayers go out to your aunt, and hope everything works out. Just continue to pray and continue to just stay positive, man, and be that anchor and that pillar of strength that she needs at this particular point. Because I know when you go through situations like that, man, people don't want you to feel sorry for them. People don't want you to just sit up there and just be like, oh, falling all apart. Like, you got to be able to be that strong tower for them to hold them up when they're down. And sometimes it can be hard. Sometimes you might have to leave the room and shed some tears, but when you walk back in that room, you got to be the pillar of strength. And once again, my prayers go out to your family, and I hope everything works out. I'm missing Saints football today for some reason. I just want to see Shaheed and Olave go off, man. Man, that's a true fan right here. That's a true fan. But I don't miss the heartbreaking losses or the disappointment or the just throwing your hands up in there. But of course, I always want to see the Saints play. I just want them to make it interesting. Like, seriously. How about y'all try to do something like what the Houston Texans did today? Houston, like they unloaded the whole quarterback clip, right? They had Driscoll in the game. They had David Mills in the game. Like, man, just play everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, just run quadruple reverses or something. You know what I'm saying? Just make it interesting. Like, just make it fun. We know y'all not gonna make the playoffs. We know that Moses, you know what I'm saying, all this stuff is just a pipe dream. But can we make it interesting? Can we make it fun? You know, can we play like we desperate? You know, uh, that's what I would like to see. Bucks played their best defense today, so that wasn't no surprise. 49ers make a lot of teams look bad. Yeah, I mean, but to the Saints' credit, they didn't score 35 points on the Saints, and they had Jimmy G in the game. So think about this. The hottest team in the league, and what the 49ers won like 5 straight games, I ain't mistaken. They won like 5 straight games. And yeah, they won 5 straight games. The Saints, you know, held them to only 13 points, but the Saints didn't score, you know. And to be quite honest with you, the Saints should have scored quite a few times in that game. So that's another thing. You know, like these teams that are like some of these elite teams, that are like some of the best teams in the league, the New Orleans Saints neutralize these guys. They neutralize them. They shut them down. And yet they still lose. Like the Saints are the most impressive losers I've ever seen. Like, seriously. Like, you think about the Cincinnati Bengals game, right? I mean, they played that game to perfection and still lost. Then you had like the game last week versus Tampa. Played about as impressive as you could defensively, and they still lost. It's like the Saints are the most impressive losers in the National Football League. Like they tease you because they make these teams look mortal, like the best teams. Like even like Minnesota playing pretty good, even though they lost today to the Lions, and that's not a knock because the Lions looking pretty good right now. But they pretty much neutralized them. Like Kirk Cousins didn't do anything in that game. Tom Brady didn't do nothing in the Saints games. The first two, still that 3-minute drive that he had, he still didn't do nothing in my opinion. Like, you know, like that. Come on, man. But anyway, they play their best games against some of the best teams in the league, and yet they still lose. It makes no sense. Many are called, but few are chosen. Kingston, thank you for the $2, Josh. I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Find me another team. Like, find me a team that's a beast in the league, right? Find me a team that's a beast in the league, and they go up against another beast in the league, and they are as impressive as the Saints been versus some of the top teams. I know that's a lot. Take an A+ team, put them up against another A+ team, and see how they fare out. I've seen teams like with good defenses and good teams, supposedly. And they like if a team averages about 25 or 26 points, they scoring 27, 28 points on that team. The Saints are the only team I've seen. Seriously, they are the only team I've seen that play. They'll play a Joe Burrow. They'll play a Kirk Cousins who had like 400 yards passing a day. A Jimmy Garoppolo who before they played the Saints had 4 touchdowns against Arizona. Do you play against these teams and they still like, you know, shut the teams down, pretty much neutralize, come down to a field goal or something? So I don't know, man. That's the most frustrating thing to me. When you can play that well and it look like your game plan is supposed to be working, and then all of a sudden, like you start sputtering down the stretch or just coming up with some boneheaded, ridiculous plays. Oh my goodness. Ali, the Saints have to do is play Taysom more and Dalton less problem. So look, I'm gonna say this, man. I'm gonna keep it a buck, and I know people don't want to hear this, but Andy Dalton been playing pretty decent over the last couple of weeks. He played decent versus Tampa. He played decent versus the 49ers. Like, now, when we start to evaluate and look at what is decent, like, You know what I'm saying? The bar is like so freaking low, like from the days Drew Brees was quarterback. And so mediocrity is kind of like what we've been wallowing in. So anybody that can complete, convert 2 third downs in a row, as I often say, like we looking at him like they the second coming of Joe Montana. But I'm saying based on how he started and how things have been going, like he ain't been bad. He ain't been bad. Like you can talk about the sack late in the game. You can't take those type of sacks. And yes, you know what I'm saying? That type of stuff like that, people will label you as, yes, I will say it, a choke artist, right? You know what I'm saying? You choking right now, right? You play real good. It's kind of like on some Romo stuff, right? Romo lighting it up. 3-4 touchdowns in the first half. Fourth quarter, game get tied. You know what I'm saying? It's nut cutting time, as they call it. And then all of a sudden, like he come with a pick. So like, yeah, you can't be choking it away at the end, but he ain't been too bad. But I will say this. I do agree with you with the Taysom Hill statement. I really do. I feel like the Saints need to play Taysom Hill a little bit more, throwing the ball. I think the RPO stuff, it's not working because the offensive line is slow. They hurt, they can't block worth a good guy, you know what. And I just think that maybe you need to use Taysom as a passing the ball just a little bit more, because it'll work more. It normally works more times than not when Taysom throws the ball. Hypothetically speaking, what if we went out and the Bucks lose the rest? What will happen? Then the Saints will make the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think they'll make the playoffs because I mean you have to play Carolina. You have to play Carolina, and you have to play Atlanta. So yeah, if the Saints went out and Tampa lose out, then the Saints, they would make the playoffs because the Saints would have swept Atlanta, so that would put them out of the equation. And then, of course, then you'll probably have to look at record and divisional record, right? So if you beat Carolina, and if you beat, Atlanta, sweep them, and Tampa loses all the rest of their games, then the Saints will make the playoffs. So good luck with that. If I'm not mistaken, if they win maybe one more time, like I think it will officially eliminate the Saints from playoff contention. I'm glad we not playing all we was going to see was punt flag, punt flag, Kamara run up the middle, which is my opinion. I feel he should go back to being used outside, but another punt and injury. Man, pretty much a league of a year of disappointment. For everyone saying no, Vance Sean is still under contract with the Saints and they don't have to approve any trades. Yeah, but I guess they feel like, well, you want to get something for him, right? You don't want to just lose him and not be able to get anything for him. And if Sean Payton can work with you for you to get some type of draft capital, why not? You'll hate to see him just completely just go and you don't get anything for him, TJ, what are your thoughts on a report that Cam and the team allegedly had Cam faking injury? Seems like even in a losing season, NFL can't let us live. Look, hey, I I think that is wrong if that happens. Based on like the footage, it's looking like they're telling Cam to take a knee, and quite frankly, people are going to find that kind of stuff suspicious because if you're gonna ask somebody to go down, why would you ask the most durable guy in NFL history almost to take a knee? Like even I felt that was weird. Like when I seen them, like Cam Jordan on the knee, like Cam Jordan never hurt. So I'm like, if you did that with like Davenport, I'm not trying to knock the brother, but I mean, it's kind of like a reoccurring thing. But you're gonna ask the most durable guy, Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan has missed one game in his entire career due to an injury. That was that eye injury that happened this year. This man been in the league for 12 years, right? He was at home, with COVID. So you're going to ask the most durable guy, right? The most durable man who ain't never took a knee, to bow out a game in his career. And you don't think they're going to look at that as weird? Like, come on, man. You should ask somebody else that's always hurt. I'm like, man, they like, man, these boys here trying to front. Cam ain't never hurt. I mean, that was, yeah, stuff like that. You know, like even I'm like, man, y'all boys can't even find out who needs to be taking a knee for being hurt to make it not look as suspicious. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing? Like, we letting guys who run, who lead the team in rushing yards, we allow them to leave and go on somewhere. We around here, you know what I'm saying, whiffing on draft picks. You know, the two safeties that we let go, they have 10 interceptions combined together with Marcus Williams and CJ Gardner-Johnson. And yet, y'all can't even pick the right person to take a knee. The most durable man on the New Orleans Saints team, y'all telling him to take a knee. My goodness. Like, y'all can't do nothing right. Giving up big leads in the fourth quarter, up 16-3 with 3 minutes left. Well, I tell you, can't even tell somebody to take a knee right. Is it just me or did Russell Wilson fall off a cliff? Yeah, man, my boy looking bad, man. Y'all know how I feel about Russell Wilson if you've been following this show for some years. Russell Wilson is my favorite quarterback in the league as of right now. He hasn't been playing good. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if maybe Father Time is just undefeated with him. I mean, it's just looking bad, and it is not going to get any better. The Denver Broncos, to be quite honest with you, you know, I don't know if they're going to, you know, hold up that contract. I can see them trying to get up out of that thing. It just was a bad move, man. It was a bad move, and Seattle they sold Denver a lemon. They sold them a lemon, and as of right now, it's looking real bad. But I don't know. They're gonna have to find something. They're gonna have to do something because his teammates don't like him, from what I'm hearing. Well, I don't want to say from what I'm hearing that what they're trying to portray is the team don't like him. You see people yelling on the sidelines. You see defensive players getting all up in his face and talking Russell Wilson. And I don't know, man. I don't know. They did better using Peyton Turner. Dude always hurt. If he was playing, he wasn't in the game, though. That's why I said Davenport. Should use Davenport. I really think Sean had time to look and see what out there, know what quarterback we can get and what quarterback Saints can get. I don't know. I think if he can finagle his way to Los Angeles or somewhere on the West Coast, I think that he'll be okay with that. I think that's what he wants in the end. You know, I think that he wants to coach Justin Herbert. And there's a reason why I feel like he goes to more of those games than any of the other games. I think that he likes Justin Herbert. I think that he feel like he can work with Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert does need somebody like Sean Payton because, I mean, Justin Herbert is a extremely talented quarterback. You know, he's a guy that all he wants to do is play football. You know, he don't have them outside distractions. He's not a, you know, social media darling. He doesn't want people to know what's really going on with him. He's a private guy. And, you know, I can respect that, you know, and I think that Sean Payton, with his personality, will be able to pull that greatness out of Justin Herbert. And I think that what you're seeing with Andy Reid and Mahomes, you can have that same thing with Justin Herbert and Sean Payton, to be quite honest with you. And I feel like the league would actually definitely want that, to have Andy Reid and Sean Payton in the same division playing each other twice with two franchise future face of the NFL type quarterbacks in Mahomes and Herbert. Even though I feel like Mahomes right now is the face of the NFL and Herbert can be there shortly. So, you know, I think that the NFL definitely wants that, and they're going to be lobbying for it because, you know, the reality is, who that nation, when it comes to greatness, they feel like the Saints shouldn't have none of it. I'm going to say that again. When it comes to greatness, the NFL feel like the Saints shouldn't have none of it. All right. The NFL is about nostalgia, the days of yesteryear, right? They're always dusting off them old NFL films from, you know, old man Willie, you know, going all the way in the Super Bowl, you know, or, you know, Roger Staubach, you know, throwing a Hail Mary to Drew Pearson. You know, they're about nostalgia. And unfortunately, when it comes to nostalgia with the Saints, the NFL looks at them as losers. So The Saints don't supposed to have a coach that everybody's supposed to sought after. They don't supposed to have a quarterback that everybody wants to have. That's not what the Saints want, should and should aspire to be. They should just be middle of the pack or worse where they are right now. And I think the NFL has absolutely no problem with it. The NFL loves the fact that the NFC East is one of the best divisions, if not the best division in football. They love the fact that you have some of the biggest media market teams being successful right now. They love that. And, if any way they can try to, put a talking head on TV to try to hype up scenarios with hopefully somebody that's a handler or agent of Sean Payton be looking and run that by him and have him thinking, maybe that ain't a bad idea. That's exactly what they want, man. They don't want us to have anything like that. They love the fact that Sean Payton stepped down, and they love the fact that the Saints are 4-9. So they can get off these memes and justify old nostalgic type rhetoric about the New Orleans Saints when people was wearing bags on their head. So that's why I say to people all the time, like, don't talk about, those bags, because I mean, that's the thing that they want us to be. It's an NFL pecking order. It's a pecking order in the National Football League. And if they can have the teams that they want on top every single year and have teams at the bottom like New Orleans Saints who they feel like should be there and have been there for years, like I thank God that the NFL is not like Major League Baseball. Because if it was, then you'll probably see teams like the Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles every single year in a postseason playing for the Super Bowl. And the NFL would love that. So I love the fact that the NFL does have a salary cap. So, but we'll see. We'll see. TJ, they did a deep dive on Denver season, and it showed that if Denver just averaged 19 points this year, they would be 10-4. Crazy how the offense can generate 3 touchdowns. They can't. Yeah, man, it's just bad. It is bad, man. I feel bad for Hackett, man. Hackett, I just think that he gonna be the scapegoat. They're gonna end up firing him because you can't get rid of Russell Wilson because I mean you're giving him way too much money. You gave up the first round draft pick for him, so they're gonna try to make this thing work. They have no choice but to double down on this. I hope Winston takes the Saints' money and bounce. He won't get another fair shot in the NFL. That is true. I really feel that way. I really feel like he's not going to get a fair shake in the NFL. I just mentioned that the NFL is about parodies. It's about parodies. It's about narratives. And Jameis Winston has a narrative that he will never be able to shake because they are on him. They are on him. And he is one of those guys that have the lucky opportunity to be the punching line. You know what I'm saying? The punch line or the butt of the jokes. Like that's just who he is. And he'll never be able to shake that. If Jameis Winston goes out there and plays successful, the narrative is going to be like, well, wait till next week. And I can see somebody like Baker Mayfield. He's next on the agenda. He's next on the list because he's the guy that they're trying to do that to now. First overall pick who didn't pan out, team didn't want him. Stuff like that. That's the narrative that they want to have. But I find it funny and very weird and odd that you have Deshaun Watson struggling as well as Jacoby Brissett struggling out there in Cleveland, and ain't nobody saying nothing. Ain't nobody finding justification for that. But hey, and I mentioned this before, it matters what team that you're on. It matters what team that you're on. But I don't think that Jameis Winston is going to be, given a fair shake for the rest of his career. Justin Herbert is crazy talented. I remember his rookie year, he had the Saints on skates in the Superdome. Yeah, I remember that. I definitely remember that. OG, I almost thought that comment you deleted was genuine. Facts, TJ, as long as Roger Goodell is the NFL commissioner, the Saints will be treated like trash. Yeah, I mean, look, it's just amazing to me how some of these other teams, violate. Don't seem like nothing really comes of it. But the Saints, they always get like some of the harshest penalties. So there's definitely something, going on with that. It just seems like to me like it's always a witch hunt. And I think it has a lot to do with the whole Bounty Gate situation. You know, the fact that he had to go, I'm talking Roger Goodell, he had to solicit the help of former NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue in order to create damage, create damage control when he made a whole spectacle out of the whole bounty situation. So I just think that there's some level of resentment towards the New Orleans Saints since then because it kind of made him look bad because the Saints kind of put their little investigation together and it kind of counteracted what he did. And like I said, he had to go get Paul Tagliabue, a guy who was well respected and it was almost like, man, son is in trouble, man. We got to go call daddy. And it made him look bad. So I just think that he kind of just holds that against the Saints all the time. I just feel like that's the reason for the fines. I feel like that's the reason for some of the harsh penalties that can be game changers. I feel like, that's the reason why, a lot of the Saints games are looked at with a fine-tooth comb versus other teams. They probably let play or let a flag go. It's just what it is, man. This is a long. I mean, this has been going on for about a decade now, and I think it's going to forever be that way. And if if Roger Goodell can find a way inconspicuously to put a knife in the back of the Saints and a dagger into the heart of Saints fans, I think he'd be willing to do it. I mean, if you put him on a polygraph test, I guarantee you, if you was to ask Roger Goodell, do you get pleasure at watching the Saints lose in some way? And he says no, the lie detector test will determine that was a lie. TJ, I'm not knocking Philly for playing the schedule they were given, but I don't believe in them as serious threats to beat the AFC teams should they make the Super Bowl. Look, man, I like Philadelphia, man. I'm not even gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. I like that Jalen Hurts has proved me wrong. I said that he most likely wouldn't be a starter by the end of the season. Boy, was I wrong on that. And I'm going to continue to eat crow because if I'm man enough to say that, I'm going to be man enough to eat this crow. Philadelphia, I have absolutely no problem with. I think that we, just like everybody else, would love watching Philadelphia play because they're fun to watch. The only reason why we don't look at them that way is because how they fleeced us. And, I ain't got no look. It's a business at the end of the day. And if you can get if the shoe was on the other foot and the Saints did the same thing, we would be laughing and saying ha ha ha. So let's not act like that. I know what they say, ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun, but it's business, and it was a bad business decision with Mickey Loomis and Howie Roseman won. Period. So that's just the end of it. I ain't got no problem with Philly. I don't have a problem with them. I think they're a really good football team. I think they're talented. I think that they play for each other. I think that the coach embodies their city. I think that it's a good football team, and you got to give credit what credit is due. Now, do I look at them and say, well, they can't be beat? No, not really. I think that when it comes down to it, like everybody, look, we've seen this all before. Like we've seen this before, folks. We seen it with our own team. We seen a team that looked like they were just virtually unstoppable. They put up a whole bunch of yards. They got offensive innovation. They defense making plays, and all of a sudden they get to the postseason, don't do nothing. So all this winning, yes, it puts you in a position where you can get home field advantage. But at the end of the day, you got to play these games. And these teams buckle down in the postseason. So you think you're going to be running all free and throwing the ball down the field and people ain't going to be able to look at that. These dudes be dialed in the postseason. So I don't know what Philly is going to do in the postseason. But as of right now, I have to admit, they look like the best team in football, whether we like it or not. And once again, I'm a fan of football. I'm not going to sit up here and hate on the Philadelphia Eagles because the Saints, allowed that to happen to them. Like, you can't knock them for that. Because once again, if the shoe was on the other foot, we'll be laughing and hollering at Philadelphia Eagle fans right now talking about run me my draft pick. I like watching Philly. I watched them play today. They systematically destroyed the New York Giants. The New York Giants are a team that a lot of people looked at, oh, man, they turning the corner. They made these boys look like they ain't belong on the same field with them. And that's what great teams do. And right now, this is a great team. I'm I'm sorry, folks. Like I can't get. I'm not gonna sit up here and hate on these guys because Mickey Loomis made a bonehead decision. You know, so they look pretty good to me. TJ, did you ever set up a specific start time for pods? No, and I never will. I never will, man, because the reality is I can't tell you a time that I can just do a podcast, because my time kind of shifts, right? Right now, I'm able to do it because my wife is home, and she's able to kind of, be with Paxton, but of course Paxton walk right back up in the room, anytime it feels like it. So I mean, I don't know, man. I just try to be spontaneous. And then there's sometimes, man, I just don't be feeling it. Seriously. Like, I don't want to sit up here and do a disservice to anybody. That's my main thing. Like, I don't want to just sit up here and just phone it in. Like, I want to be inspired to do podcasts. I want to have the energy up. I want to be able to talk. I want you to all understand me. I want you all to feel like you had a good listening or a viewing experience. In this case, it's listening because I'm not on camera. I mean, all that kind of stuff plays a role. So I know some people, they got their podcast set up at a certain time, but that's just something I just can't do, man. I just can't do it. But me as a fan of the Saints, I want to see Jameis play for the Saints. DA really hurt this man. I want to see him play too. And at this particular point, why not? Why not let him play? Now, some people, I can't remember who said this. It might have been. I want to say it may have been Sean Salisbury, or it could have been Nick Underhill, one or the other. But they said, by putting Jameis Winston in and Andy Dalton, who hasn't really been playing relatively bad, you're basically be alienating Andy Dalton and ruining your chances of him possibly coming back to be that bridge quarterback for you to find like that rookie. Like, let's just say, for example, if the Saints draft Hendon Hooker and, they ask Andy Dalton to come back to kind of be that bridge guy until Hendon Hooker is ready and well enough to play. Well, he probably be less interested because the Saints just went, and told him to sit down, even though he played well. It wasn't his fault that Olave dropped the pass. It wasn't his fault that Landry dropped the pass. It wasn't his fault that Taysom Hill couldn't catch. So it will kind of just make him frustrated. But at the end of the day, who cares, right? It's not like, oh, you Joe Montana or something like that. Oh, Joe, man, Joe, we love you. We know you're doing a good job here, but look, Andy Dalton is the most mediocre quarterback that you're gonna find. Like, you can find an Andy Dalton at any store. You can find Andy Dalton on any team. It's like he's bunny bread to me. Like, Andy Dalton is bunny bread. You can find bunny bread at every store, a corner store, a liquor store. I don't care if it I don't care if you're going up in there getting some Belvedere, some Goose, some Hypnotic, I don't know, some Louis the 13th. Look, whatever. You're going to find some bunny bread on the shelf, right? That's where Andy Dalton is. You can find him anywhere. You can find a guy 16 to 19 for $117 and a touchdown on anybody's team. So who cares if you hurt his feelings or make him frustrated? Who cares? At this particular time, you need to see what you actually have. Do you have a guy that is serviceable in Jameis that you probably can use as a bridge guy if you don't want to sign him long term? And he's younger than Andy Dalton, by the way. Or you just want to just cut ties with him. Like, let's see. Andy Dalton, come on, man. Andy, man, please. Nothing Andy Dalton will do for the next 4 games is going to make a owner or a GM look and be like, boy, you know what? What we need is Andy Dalton on this team. There's nothing he can do. You're a 34-year-old quarterback. Your best days are behind you. Your days of being a franchise quarterback are over. You might well go ahead and collect the checks, get this 14 one year, this 17 the next year, and collect your check so you can live out your life in prosperity in your golden years. But seriously, who cares if Andy Dalton gets upset about that? I don't. Dude, you Captain Mediocre right now. Captain Mediocre. That's what you is. You look, you are a C+ player. Period. a C plus player. That is what you are. And you think I care about what a C plus player think? I don't care about what no and man, you might hurt Andy Dalton and he might just not be interested. Bye. Seriously. Like, oh, where are we gonna find a guy who could throw 16 passes? You know, where are we gonna find a guy that's gonna be able to check it down to Alvin Kamara and hopefully he can turn a 3-yard check down into 30 yards? Where are we gonna find it? Man, miss me with that. You think man, who cares about Andy Dalton's feelings? Like, you play everybody that you can to try to get as much as you can on tape to evaluate where you need to go. Because I can tell you right now, wherever the Saints are going, Andy Dalton ain't going there with them. Okay? Andy Dalton ain't getting them there. As you can see, you ain't winning with Andy Dalton. You ain't going to lose. Well, you'll lose with Andy Dalton, and you're going to do more losing than winning. Period. Okay? Dude is a choke artist. People say, like, I said he played decent. Yes, he did. But here's the reality, folks. Here's the reality. The bar is so freaking low at the quarterback position for the New Orleans Saints. Seriously. If one of us was good enough to throw the ball on a rope, I mean, serious. Like, if we was to go up in there and be serviceable, I don't think anybody would care at this point. Put them in. Everybody would say. That's how low that's how low the morale is at the quarterback position right now. So, I mean, come on, man. Give me a freaking break. Andy Dalton, feelings. I can't remember who said that, man. But whoever it was, is like, who cares? Like, Andy Dalton ain't you're not winning nothing with no Andy Dalton. Seriously, dude is a choke artist. He's a choke artist. The way I feel about Andy Dalton is this. Okay, let's just say, for example, you're commuting from work to home and your commute is 45 minutes, right? And you do 44 minutes and 55 seconds of flawless driving. All of a sudden, you turn on your street and you hit a fire hydrant. Somebody please tell me, did all that driving that you did for those 44 minutes doesn't mean anything if your car is wrapped around a fire hydrant and water is shooting up everywhere? Seriously. Somebody tell me that. Somebody answer that question for me. Probably not. It means nothing. So you can go out there and you can throw the ball as much as you possibly can. You can complete 70% of your passes and you can throw a touchdown in the first quarter. But when it's time to wheel and deal, you can't be taking a sack. You can't hold on to the football and take a sack when you need to be throwing it in the zone and try to go up a 50-50 ball. You can't do these things. You can't throw consecutive pick sixes, okay? You just can't do it. You can't do it, man. So you can find Andy Dalton anywhere, folks. You want to hear something crazy? If the Saints run the table and win out and Tampa lose 3 out of 4, the Saints make the playoffs. Yeah, that's the crazy thing about it. But will it happen? Probably not. Probably not. Somebody say, I miss me some bunny bread. Ain't got no bunny bread where you at? Dalton is not a bad quarterback. He actually has done well. We need Russell Wilson for our quarterback. All he needs is an offensive line to protect him, and he will tear you apart. Hell no. To the no. Hell to the no. Is Andy Dalton a bad quarterback? No, he is not. Is Andy Dalton a mediocre quarterback? Yes, he is. Do the Saints need Russell Wilson? Heck nah, not for what I see. And honestly, who go coach him? Who gonna coach him and get the best Russell Wilson out of them? Definitely ain't nobody on this roster. I know you lying. Not the coaching staff I seen. I knew, sir. We do not need Russell Wilson. The Saints need a young, hungry lion to lead this football team. They need somebody that this fan base can buy into, this organization can invest in, and they can win games. They can win games. And honestly, he comes in the best position in the world. Because you know why? Because there's this old saying, it's tough to be the man after the man. But the man after the man after the man becomes the man, because the man after the man stinks it up so badly that the man after the man after the man looks like a breath of fresh air. Hope I ain't lose you with that, but all I'm saying is they need somebody. I just think the Saints need to hit the reset button at the quarterback position. You know, said TJ, what you smoking, man? I have to ask you the same thing. This man, like, I gotta ask you the same thing, because I don't want to believe that you came on the show with 206 people watching and thousands of people that gonna end up watching this at the end, and you're gonna say that your take is gonna be to justify. Well, I won't say justifying Andy Dalton, saying Andy Dalton a good quarterback and want to replace him with Russell Wilson, a man who has been playing like slow. And I love Russell Wilson. I do. Russell Wilson is my favorite quarterback in the league. I stand by that. But he is not it. And you want to, so let me get this straight. You want to replace mediocre bottom of the barrel quarterback play with mediocre bottom of the barrel quarterback play. I mean, goes back to what I was just saying. You can find a Andy Dalton on any street. But Russell Wilson, the Russell Wilson that you're looking at is the Russell Wilson that once was. And sometimes we get so starstruck that a guy's name on the back of their jersey that we don't look at the fact that maybe this guy is a little bit washed. Case in point, Adrian Peterson, when he played for the Saints. Like, everybody was excited, Adrian Peterson. Everybody know number 28 Peterson on the back of the jersey. But that was not the Adrian Peterson that was running folks over in Minnesota. And it wasn't the one that was out there, you know, playing in the NFC Championship games against the Saints back in 2009. So sometimes we have a tendency of going by names and what that name is connected to and not looking at the actual person. I mean, look at Tom Brady right now. Tom Brady, yeah, he'll win you some comebacks, but is this the Tom Brady that we have known to hate over the years because he always in our face? Absolutely not. So Russell Wilson can go where he want to go, you know? Unless Sean Payton is coming back, that's the only thing that's going to be able to save Russell Wilson. Because I know you ain't trying to get no Pete Carmichael and no Russell Wilson together right now. You know, I mean, why? So they can you know, try to run it on 3rd and 1 and then punt it on 4th and 1 when the one going. Okay, look, if the guy goes down the field and he's wide open, throw it to him? No, what do you think? What are you, crazy? No, you check it down to Alvin Kamara and let him get 5 yards. But the guy down the field, Shaheed, he's wide open. You don't want to take that risk. What are you, crazy? Be like, oh, you sure? You sure you? Okay, let's go over this again, Russell. Okay, so we're in an I formation, right? You're under center. Yes. Okay, we got Alvin Kamara behind you. Yeah. And we got Chris Olave on the left and Shaheed on the right. Now, we got Chris Olave running a deep post, right? And you got Shaheed running a 9-route street, right? What are you going to do? Shaheed burns past the defender. What do you do to him? Throw it to him on the rope? No, you don't throw it to him on the rope. You check it down to Alvin, okay? Everything you do, check it down to Alvin. Well, what if Alvin covered? Give it to Alvin. What if Shaheed's open? Look, we can't risk you throwing the ball that far, okay? It might sail on you or it might go short. But you know it's not going to go short? A short pass to Alvin Kamara. Capiche? Capiche. All right, got it. All right, 4th and 1. Minute left. Down by 3. No timeouts. What do? Go for it on 4th down? No, you don't go for it on 4th down. No, you punt. But what if we're at the 30? We punt. You're not even going to bring Will Lutz out there? We punt. That's what we do. All right. One more play. Okay. We got to save you now. We got to save you. 1st and 10. Ball on the 25-yard line. All right. You got Taysom Hill in the game playing quarterback. But you got Alvin Kamara on the flank. And you also got Rashid Shaheed. He can possibly run a jet sweep. What do? Get the jet sweep off to Shaheed. No! Throw it to Alvin. No, not this time. You're running up the middle. Run up the middle right behind the center and go. You go for a quarterback sneak. But, sir, it's 1st and 10. You only go get a yard. We don't care. It's 2nd and 9. That's the Saints. That's what you want Russell Wilson to come to, huh? That's what you want. It's 3rd and what? Ball on the 45. What do? Run the football? No. We tell Blake Gilligan, get ready. We about to punt on 4th down. Dude, you act like Jameis is such a good deep ball. He's a good deep thrower. He takes more chances, and he has missed so many deep throws. Who we talking about? I guess we talk about it in the chat. I don't think I ain't mentioned Jameis Winston deep passes. Let me see. I remember when we loved to face Jameis, but now all you love Jameis for some reason. Yeah, it's because he plays for the Saints. That's why. That's why. That's why we love him, because he plays for the Saints, and we root for guys that are on our team. So, of course, the people are going to cheer for him. What do you want to say? Man, get this bum out of here. Man, what, you signed a 2-year deal? Man, get out of here. Okay. I mean, come on, man. I think you already know that. Of course, people going to skip behind him. Why wouldn't they get behind him if he on the team? Come on, man. What are we doing? Come on. Of course, you're going to cheer for the dude. You going to boo him? You ain't going to want him to succeed on your team? Of course you do. When your car not starting and you can't get in touch with your mechanic, what do? Call my insurance company? No, you give it to Alvin. Yeah, exactly. Give it to Alvin. All things fail. Give it to Alvin. Can the team stop running Kamara like they power back between tackles? Look, the thing about it is Alvin can run in between the tackles. See, really, really well. It's just the fact that you don't want to use them like that. But I don't know, man. I guess they feel like they got Natron Means or Jerome Bettis on the team or something. Like I don't know. I mean, I said running straight at a base defense. Okay. All right. Going to have to address running back in the offseason too. I agree with that. Just don't get Melvin Gordon with his old fumbling tail. We only run out injured running backs to the sideline. Even that. And how many throws did he miss in that Atlanta game? I don't know, but I know the Saints won. That's all I know. And he facilitated a 4-quarter comeback, something that Andy Dalton has yet to do. Am I mistaken? Did Andy Dalton facilitate a 4-quarter comeback this season? No. Let's see. I've been saying the same thing. LOL. Kamara is a beast in space. They seem determined to make sure he gets no chance to show that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I ain't seen that since the Vegas game. Dennis Allen couldn't beat a 6-year-old in NCAA football 14. That's the way it goes, TJ, for real. Man, these predictable plays, man. No predictable plays. Let's see. Answer the question. Was it a win or no? Of course. Look, Brandon, you trying to make sense out of the deal? Ain't nobody gonna agree with what you said when you making sense. Now I gotta find a way to navigate and move my move my statement. I gotta move the goalposts here. All I'm saying is, man, you can hate on Jameis Winston all day, all night, all you want to. All I'm saying is this. Why not? at this point. Why not? Why not play him? Why not play him? You ain't going nowhere. So why not play him? You ain't winning nothing. So why not play him? Having this conversation at this particular point, these are the type of conversation you have if the Saints was in playoff contention. And maybe this decision will probably, make the situation even better or something. But they ain't going nowhere. You start Andy for the rest of the season, they ain't going nowhere. You start Jamin for the rest of the season, they ain't going nowhere. It's just that simple. They already shot themselves in the foot so many times they no longer have toes. A matter of fact, they probably up to the ankle because they done shot their entire foot off. So I just don't get it. Like having these conversations, talk about Jameis and talking about how bad he is and talking like who cares? Like at this particular point, you're evaluating for next year. You put yourself in this position. So why are we having this conversation? Like none of these dudes are the answer. If you ask me, will either one of these guys be on this team as a starter next year, would they be? My answer would be no. None of these guys are going to lead you anywhere. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Like we need to be looking and trying to figure out what's the next move at quarterback to salvage some of this talent that we have. Like, can you imagine what a decent quarterback, what Chris Olave's stat line could look like? Can you imagine what Alvin Kamara's stat line can look like? Some of these other wide receivers would look like. What a decent enough quarterback to utilize the talent and maximize it. So I don't know, man. Like going at these dudes and like, man, neither one of these dudes to me are going to be on this team next year. So you might as well just go ahead and let these boys play, make it interesting. Make the Who Dat Nation have something they can actually look at and evaluate. Let's just do that. Like, man, I'm not going to pretend to make it interesting. I ain't going to pretend like a situation needs to happen or a situation should have, going to be happening. Look, it's bad right now. It's bad. It's not good. It's bad. And, ain't no sugarcoating. Like, ain't no sugarcoat. Like, some people want sugarcoated on other podcasts and other shows. Fine. If that's what you want to do. But, man, you got to keep it a buck. Like, having these conversations about Andy Dalton and Jameis is pointless at this time. TJ, can Willie Green coach football? I wish. Jameis Winston going to go play for another team next year and blow up. Watch what I tell you. I don't know if he'll blow up, but I'm pretty sure he'll find success. If Michael Thomas can stay healthy also. I don't know. I just hope the brother I just hope he can just go back. At this particular point, I don't even care if he plays for the Saints. Like, I just want to see this man finish off his career on his turn. If it don't work out, the Saints feel like I'll go in another direction. Let's just say, for example, they talk to him. They say, man, Mike, over the last couple of almost 3 years, we really haven't really gotten a return on investment. We just got to be honest with you. We would like for you to take a pay cut, so we can possibly, try to move some things around so we can get some guys up in here to try to help out. If he says no, or I ain't doing it, fine. Go somewhere else, light it up. We'll just be mad and get frustrated why you couldn't do this with us for the last 2 to 3 years. Whatever. But all I'm saying is, man, I just want this team to be successful. I want to see this. I want to see this team maximize their full potential. They got talent, but I just question this coaching staff ability to bring it out these guys. When you have zero accountability for mistakes that you're making and people are just, walking around like, oh, well, I'm rich, I'm paid, I'm made, I'm living in the shade, and I'm going to Cancun when this season is over. When you got people thinking like that and they got February, they got February on their mind in December, like something is wrong. And in the culture of this New Orleans Saints team, it can, like I'm telling you right now, like this year right here, you probably got a couple guys up in there on the leadership tip that's going to be able to weather this and keep these young guys centered in the locker room and keep them focused, right? teach them about respect and credibility and stuff like that. But we're talking about possibly letting guys like this go, like a Cam Jordan or the Mario Davis, talking about they getting long in the tooth. Now, you are a team that's coming off a losing season. And if you bring back a coach that represents that losing season, and you start off the season the way that you did this past year, guess what? That locker room that you tried so desperately to try to get rid of back in 2015 and 2016 is going to start lurking right back up again, because we all know we see it at work. We see it around. When people feel like nobody has the answers, everybody got some. And then the next thing you know, it's just a bunch of loud noise and a bunch of suggestions and an overpowered suggestion box. And people getting mad because they feel like their answers are better than the answers up top. So they better be careful with this. I'm just saying, they better be careful about how they navigate. That's why I always say, you better be careful about doubling down on this. Loomis will have to do a really good job in persuading Sean Payton to come back. I don't think so. I don't think he will have to do a really good job. I mean, look at this team. Like, if this don't motivate you to want to come back to help. And the thing about it is, I just never understood this. I never understood the whole Sean Payton leaving thing. When, like, we ain't got no franchise quarterback. Sean Payton has tried to make a career out of improving people wrong. Like bringing in guys that people then gave up on. Oh, watch what I do with them. Watch what I make out of them. He had Kevin White on his team. Kevin White been on his team for 2 years. He brought Kevin White and had him starting over some guys that been here like Traquan Smith and Callaway. So, he always trying to prove people wrong. So I don't understand. Like, you would think that he would embrace this moment. And this, coaches don't have an opportunity to coach as long on one team as he has. You basically have an opportunity to kind of just start over from scratch. Like, and yes, is it with the same organization, but at the same time, like, it's a new challenge. It's new challenges, it's new strategies, it's new ways to try to, reinvent the wheel almost. So I just never understood that. I don't think you have to do it in a different uniform. You have opportunity, whatever. If Sean Payton was to go to a team right now, yeah, they'll probably have a decent quarterback, but at the same time, they would be a struggling team. There would be a team that struggled. The most likely, that team fires their coach, right? You're not firing your coach if you're a playoff contender or close to being a playoff contender. You're bad. That's why they're firing you, because you're bad. So I don't know. I just think that what you're looking for, you can build once again. But the question is, like, does he want to? And honestly, he didn't. He didn't. And that's the biggest issue I have with Payton, that you had an opportunity to really show your greatness, and you didn't. I mean, he's still showing his greatness in his absence, because he's showing like how important he was to this organization. So with that, like, it's making him even hotter. Like, people think, oh, is Sean Payton, he's the hottest commodity on the street because he's a great play caller. Yes, that is true. But he's even hotter for every loss that Dennis Allen has. He's hotter for every bad decision Dennis Allen had. And then I feel like some of the biggest and most ridiculous, egregious losses, embarrassing losses came in prime time for the New Orleans Saints, if y'all think about it. Think about this. The Minnesota Vikings game, right? The double doink in London, right? The game versus the Arizona Cardinals, 2 pick sixes back to back. Like, think about some of these primetime games, like getting embarrassed on national TV with Lamar Jackson, like making them boys look like they some high schoolers out there. And then finally, Tom Brady with a 4-quarter comeback in 3 minutes. So all these things, like, ain't nobody watching. Like, unless you a Saints fan, you're not watching the Saints every week. But when the Saints are like in prime time and they're like the only game on TV, the Saints have lost in some of the most embarrassing ways. I'm talking 1994 bad. Like, it's been embarrassing. And people are looking at that. Owners are looking at that. talking heads are looking at that, and it's making Sean Payton's stock grow and is making his star even brighter. So for all those people that's out here that just like, oh man, you know what I'm saying? Don't like, man, you ain't about to get this for Sean Payton, you ain't about to get that. Yes, you will. Yes, you can. Sean Payton is doing more, not doing anything at all, than he would ever do doing anything as a coach this season. Seriously. Like he by him just sitting up there and the Saints are imploding in front of our very eyes is making Sean Payton look like the greatest coach of all time. So for people that say, man, you ain't about to get 2 first-round picks for him, are you crazy? Are you insane? Are you watching your team? Are you watching these boys implode in front of your eyes? Or do you still feel like the Saints, oh, they one of the best teams in the league? Like you still got that in the back of your mind. It's not about what you did last year. It's about what you're doing now. And what you're doing now is stinking it up. The Saints are not one of the most well-respected teams in the league this year. Nobody's checking for the Saints. Nobody's talking about the Saints because the Saints don't matter. And why don't they matter? It's because, but whether you want to admit it or not, Sean Payton is not their coach. And if Sean Payton was their coach, then the Saints would be in a better position. Everybody believes that. And every single loss that Dennis Allen gets and gains, it is going to make Sean Payton more and more appealing. Read a few more, then we're going to get up out of here. I think the Saints could stay with Dalton and maybe draft Hooker from Tennessee to eventually take over. Jameis is probably going to be a backup on another team. I agree with that. I love the Saints, but I've officially packed up and dry cleaned all my Saints gear to next season. Well, man, look. Still support the team, still support them. I mean, we can't just be grandstanders. I understand that this is bad stuff right here, like 98, 97 bad, but still our team, man. And, things ain't always going to be easy, as we already know. But some of us probably never been in this position. Some of us, this position has become too familiar and not in a good way. But still support the team. Man, we still can evaluate and see, like, okay, man, who doing what? I mean, you still got bright spots. Like watching Rashid Shaheed play, watching like some of these other guys like Jawan Johnson play, watching Chris Olave play. I mean, it's still, you're still interested in having an investment in those guys. But, like, it's not always going to be easy, man. It's not always going to be easy. Saints aren't always going to be successful. And, still support the team. A lot of the competition was better. What? You serious? Man, look, I don't know. See, Brandon, in a perfect world, a Sean Payton Lamar Jackson duo would be fun to watch. I agree with that. Dalton is better than Winston. Winston, once down on the scoreboard, will look for the home run ball. Look, that's not saying much at all. I'm being serious. Like Andy Dalton is just boring. Andy Dalton is boring. He's not interesting. He is just he bland. You know what I'm saying? Like he bland, and there's very little to no excitement. I mean, at least with like people love a gunslinger. I mean, that's just what it is. People love a gunslinger. People like fun football, right? We seen Patrick Mahomes roll to the right today. Well, some of y'all probably seen. This man threw a sky hook over his head to, I want to say McKinnon, not McKinnon, a Hartman. You know what I'm saying? One of them dudes. And it turned into a 40-yard touchdown. Like, we like to see stuff like that. But at the end of the day, everybody ain't going to be that way. Andy Dalton, it's going to be Andy Dalton. He's boring. But, I mean, saying that Andy Dalton is better than Jameis, what are you actually saying? What are you actually saying, man? I don't know. I don't know exactly what that means. Jameis is so fun. Throwing picks left and right and taking sacks is so much fun. If that's the only thing that you want to take from the game, yeah, like if that's what you want to do. But I mean, for somebody to sit up here, and tell me Jameis sucks and Jameis not good, and then want to talk about I don't know if we're the same person or not, but something about Russell Wilson. I don't know. Bottom line is Sean Payton. We always had a chance. No coach is perfect, but I don't think we're going to get any better. If the A's continue to go down the way they were, then they won't. Dalton is slow and steady, but ain't running a turtle race. Dalton has no turnover for 3 straight games. Yeah, and he also has what? How many touchdowns he has in those games there, buddy? How many touchdowns does he have in those 3 games? Somebody, please, somebody. Hold on, wait a minute. Let me see. Hold on now. Let me pull up them stats. Let me pull up them stats, man. Because sometimes we can be saying something and not saying nothing at all. All right, so the last 3 games. Let's see. Andy Dalton. Let me see. Okay, so in the last 3 games, well, not bad. Okay, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Right? So 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he had 3 against Los Angeles, 0 against San Francisco, and 1. So come on, man. He not turning the ball over, but they ain't scoring. What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, man, I don't know, man. It's like, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let you pass the test because you're the only one that didn't cheat on the test. I mean, you didn't cheat, but you failed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like what are we doing? Man, what are we doing, man? Like, bruh, none of these dudes to me are the future of this franchise. What are we talking about? Like, I'm not trying to sit up here. Like, I feel bad about Badge and Andy Dalton, but dude is mediocre. I like how you leave out how the team let him down with the drops. Man, where you been? I already mentioned that. It ain't my fault that you showed up late as hell to the show, man. I've been mentioning this. I mentioned it. Like, we've been doing it for about an hour and a half now. I've been mentioning it. So please stop. Don't come on in the middle of the show and tell me what I didn't say because you weren't here at the beginning of the show. When we hit the music and we hit the intro, you weren't here. So I mentioned that already. I even said, dude ain't been playing bad. Who said you call him trash? So how can you call him trash? Who calling him trash? I said he average. Dude, if you don't think that Andy Dalton is average, bruh, stop talking football. Like, seriously. Like, you make yourself looking bad right now. 100. Like, dude, don't talk to me about no good quarterback play. You up here trying to prop up Andy Dalton? Bruh. What are we talking about? Like, you up here like defending the most mediocre quarterback you can find on this side of the Mississippi. Oh, he better than Jameis. What are you actually saying? What are you actually saying is what I want to know. For all those people out here that trying to justify Andy Dalton and prop him up, Andy Dalton is average. What are you talking about? Oh, Andy Dalton, you talking about Andy Dalton. But Andy Dalton is average. What are you talking about? Like, you up here trying to we ain't propping up Mahomes. We ain't propping up Jalen Hurts. We ain't propping up Josh Allen. We propping up Andy Dalton. The captain average, C average, Mr. 70% himself. You trying to prop up Andy Dalton and trying to get on me because I don't want to justify or feel the way you do about a mediocre quarterback? I know the bar has been lowered because Drew Brees left, But I refuse. Like, for real, I will not wallow in the dump of mediocrity because Andy Dalton is your Lord and Savior of the New Orleans Saints. Andy Dalton is average. If you want to keep it a buck, Jameis Winston is average. So what are we actually talking about? What are we talking about? I don't care what the analytics say. They both average. They both average. They both average. And in about 2 or 3 years, neither one of these guys going to be on your football team. What are we talking about? What did Jameis do in Tampa? Who gives a damn? Seriously, who gives a damn? Who went, like, seriously? This is what, like, bruh, this is what I have a problem with. This, like, Jameis Winston has not played in Tampa for 3 seasons. 3. And y'all still talking about what he did in Tampa. What he did in Tampa. What he did in Tampa. Dude don't play for Tampa no more. Okay, if that's the case, what Andy did in Cincinnati? What did he do? Oh, he went to the playoffs. Did they win? No. Last time I checked, Marvin Lewis made all the playoff appearances, didn't win a game. Didn't win a game. What are you talking about? You tell me what's more embarrassing. A team that won their division like 4 or 5 times as you as a franchise quarterback and you can't make the playoffs? I mean, can't win in the playoffs? But this is the man we propping up to be Joe Montana Jr. for the Saints. Breeze Jr. with the Saints. Man, what are we talking about? Man, where Hendon Hooker at? Huh? What a Caleb Williams, Heisman winning Caleb Williams talk at? We up here talking about Andy Dalton, future franchise quarterback of the Saints. What Captain Mediocrity. Lord, his lordship himself, Lord Mediocrity. That's what we talking about here. Boy, the bar is low in New Orleans. My goodness. What did Andy do with Dallas? All my friends who are Dallas Cowboy fans were happy when he did get re-signed. Winston has a captain on captain and in the bench. It tells you why Dalton is better. Don't tell you nothing. Don't really tell you nothing at all. Don't tell you nothing. Especially like since they've been saying that he's been injured. So I don't know. That means your head coach needs to be demoted. Andy Dalton makes Steve Urkel look like a thug. Remember, Andy Dalton is average. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback, but we can win with him. How? When? Where they at? Where the wins at? Where the wins at, bro? Like, look, can you win some games with them? Yes. Can you win the game with them? Heck no. No, you cannot. No, I feel very, very, very comfortable saying that. You can win games with Andy Dalton. I will agree to that. Will some of the passes that he threw in the game, did they look good? Yes. Did the wide receivers fail him? Yes. But are you winning anything that actually truly matters with Andy Dalton? In my opinion, no. How many playoff appearances Andy Dalton had? Like 7? How many playoff games did he win? None. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like before we start propping up folk and saying he better than him, bro, let's have this conversation. Andy Dalton, serviceable, but the dude ain't won nothing. Just like you can say Jameis ain't win nothing, and they ain't win nothing. Andy Dalton is not consistent. I don't want to say he ain't I don't even want to say he ain't consistent. He is consistent. He's consistently mediocre. Like he ain't about to sit up there and just knock your socks off. He just not gonna sit up here and just knock your socks off. He'll win some games. He'll make a throw or two in the game. Like, God, dog, you know what I'm saying? Andy's spinning that thing. You know what I'm saying? He's spinning that rock. You know what I'm saying? But, bruh, I'm talking about clutch. I'm talking about winning when it matters. I ain't talking about, oh, you know what I'm saying? It's a 12 o'clock game versus the Seattle Seahawks with nothing on the line. I'm talking about when it matters most. I'm talking about when the chips are on the freaking table. When the chips are on the freaking table. Andy Dalton would have been a good backup to a better quarterback for us, not a every game starter. If he had a better starter, would he be playing? So what you say? What? So I'm trying to figure out what you said before I respond to this. So what you're saying is, okay, if it was Breeze, for example, right? If it was Breeze, right? Let's say Breeze goes down. Okay, let's just put this into context, all right? So Breeze goes out, he messes up his thumb with Aaron Donald. You got 5 games. Andy Dalton got 5 games. He got 5 games to play. How many games he winning? Will he go 5-0 like Teddy Bridgewater? Will he go 5-0 like Teddy Bridgewater? I don't think so. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think that happened. I don't think it happened. But if you're saying, okay, and that kind of just, and honestly, that's the epitome of mediocrity, if you want to be honest with you. Because what you're saying is he's good, but I mean, he's decent. You know what I'm saying? It's basically what I've been saying the whole entire time. So if you got to put Andy Dalton into context, he ain't it. If the Saints would had a starter and he came in and he played 7 games, you're basically trying to make him work. So he is average. You know what I'm saying? If he is average. Okay. Say if we would have had Sean Payton this year, we would have had a winning record, but I'm sure Andy Dalton would not still be starting. I definitely agree with you on that. I definitely believe that Andy Dalton would be starting. Sean Payton probably would have been rolling with Jameis. And I think the Saints probably would have been 4 or 5 games ahead of everybody else. I'll take Sean Payton back and bring Drew in as a quarterback coach or offensive coordinator for all I care. A lot of people been throwing around, Drew Brees, as a coordinator, but I don't know. Would Drew be interested in doing something like that? I'll take Teddy Bridgewater over Andy Dalton. If Sean Payton was here this year, we would have at least 7 or 8 wins right now. I agree. Division would have been better too if you ask me. Andy Dalton equals Rex Grossman. Nah, I ain't gonna put him out there like that, boy. I ain't gonna do him like that. Nah, he ain't Rex Grossman. He better than Rex Grossman. I give him that. I ain't gonna just completely poop on a man like that. All I'm saying is he average. And Rex Grossman was below average. We stopped 49 and scored 16 points, and that same team probably making Tampa look sideways at Brady after today. Drew is not a coordinator. I think Drew can do anything he put his mind to. He's a smart guy. Of course, I feel like, if he come in, you make him a coordinator right away. You kind of get him involved with the team, maybe like circle around the offensive staff, and then maybe appoint him, next year or something like that. 2024. Imagine us getting Sean Payton and Drew Brees as coaches next year. Come on, imagine that. Wouldn't be bad, wouldn't be bad. A man's got a dream. Brees could have stepped in as head coach and done a better job than DA. Oh, man. And says, yes, any other team, he's a backup with a good quarterback, but Saints that had a good quarterback, that is the point. Yeah, I mean, look, nobody's arguing with, I want to, what I'm saying? Nobody's arguing that any of these dudes are the answer, right? I'm just saying, like, what are we actually saying? Like, propping up Andy Dalton over Jameis Winston. Like, what are we doing? That's all I'm asking. What are we really doing? We're not doing anything. Because they're basically the same guy at this particular point. You got two dudes that you got two dudes. If you take their qualities combined, you have yourself a franchise quarterback. That's just what it is. Like if you take Andy Dalton's qualities and combine them with Jameis Winston's abilities, you got yourself a franchise quarterback. There are certain things that Andy Dalton can do that Jameis can't, and vice versa. But what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, when it all comes down to it, mediocre. Mediocre quarterback play. Mediocre quarterback play. That's just what it all comes down to. I just want the Saints. Honestly, I just want Jameis to be able to move on to a team that actually trusts him and believes in him. And I want the New Orleans Saints to be able to, figure this quarterback situation out. I don't want to be like the Dolphins, spending years trying to find a tour. I don't want to be like the Buffalo Bills, finding years to find a Josh Allen. Like, I don't want to be like this, man. I want the Saints to figure this thing out. I want them to figure this thing out because, man, these teams in the South, they're young and they're going to get better. And the Saints going to find themselves behind the 8 ball for real. Because what you're seeing right now when it comes to from Carolina, that's only the beginning, man. You still got these dudes on their rookie deals for another 2 to 3 years. So they can add talent around these dudes in order for them to be a Super Bowl contender. The Saints better figure this thing out. Because you think that it's bleak now. It's going to be even worse when all the teams get better and we be in a cellar again. It don't feel as bad because even though this team is trash this season, you don't have to worry about no other team hitting you up talking about, oh, y'all suck. Because it's like you basically you preach to the choir, my friend. But what happens when your team is in the cellar and other teams are thriving and your team not? I don't want it to get to this point. I don't. But thank y'all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. I ask that you hit the like button if you enjoy the State of the Saints podcast. I ask that you subscribe if you like the State of the Saints podcast. We got previous episodes available that are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. Also, you can check me out on Facebook.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. And also on Twitter, you can follow me at TJAY Jones 8. Till next time, all I got to say is,